Ksenia, I guess we're on yours, so we're gonna start with you.
Okay. Yeah, for this piece, the main goal was to create the sensation that will be close, like to being in the water. And to create this type of atmosphere, I focused on the composition and light the most. And another important thing I've learned is how to assemble the reference board. It was really useful. And even though I didn't use all my reference and didn't apply all techniques which I collected, my idea became really clear and I was able to stay the course I've chosen in the beginning. And also I paid special attention on brushwork and textures because from references I've noticed that it plays a crucial role in creating this mood. Yeah, so that's what I've learned the best from this piece. What I want to improve is I'm not completely satisfied with my lines and flow. So I'm going to do more quick gesture sketches and more detailed sketches to improve that. Also want to increase volume, like to make more clear form, to be able to make more 3D dimensional illusions. So I will work on that too. Yeah, so that's regarding this piece.
Wow, that was the most succinct summary I've ever heard. Did you rehearse that? That was amazing. I think your points are really poignant. I agree with everything you said. I love the mood that you captured. I think from last week to this week, the changes might not have been super big, but I think as in they're small, subtle changes. I think they're big. Maybe to you they aren't, but I think they made a big difference in really making the flower the centerpiece. I really love the subtle, I can zoom in here. I love the subtle dark shapes you have here. They're almost abstract, but they add a nice flow and gesture. So I think that's working really well. And I love the glow in the edges. You said that you wanted to continue to work on, you said that textures and edges was a really, you found that was really important to add to the gesture of this, right? And I definitely agree with that. I love the kind of ethereal glow you have here. I think that's working really well. And I think the only critique I have is there's a lot of texture everywhere. And I think, for example, something in your color searching that I enjoy is that the tighter edge here in some of your places where the light hits. So I might have mentioned this before, but I'll mention it before again for everyone. I usually like to have the edge that's crispest where the light is hitting it. So in that case, it would be right here where the light is hitting, the petal, something like that. And then where other parts recede into shadow, let me get my smudge brush. Where's my smudge brush? Oh my God. Oh, it's right here. Is that yeah, okay. I'm just going to duplicate your image. So other parts where it's going to shadow, exactly like what you did here, Ksenia, right there. You guys see that where my cursor is? That's where I like to lose edges. That's typically how I like to think. And I'm noticing across both classes that people are struggling / they have questions about where to have hard edges and where to have soft edges. I'm actually going to do a demo next week to address that. I haven't done a demo in a while, and I want to show you guys how I would tackle that on Infinite Painter and or Heavy Paint. Also, because I want to show how I use different apps as well. And I think it's high time that I do that. I wanted to do it before, but there's always lectures to be done. And now that I feel like we've covered a lot of the lectures, I want to kind of rein everything in. And I want to do a recap of everything next week, because I still feel like people should have a better, or want to have a better understanding of light and color. So that's my only thing. You have a lot of texture and shifts here. The only thing I would do is take some of these edges. All you need to do is just take the value behind it and just crisp up. I think it could work. Right here, I would need bud reference, but like if it's not going to be white, but if it's just like a really delicate outline, where was that reference you had? Like right here, you see how clean that edge is? This reference you have, that's what sells. I mean, everything is clean edged here, but because this is the area of highest contrast, that really sells it, right? So I'm looking just for that. And like, I would use a lasso tool and just like literally lasso and just fill in. Got to be really clean with those shapes though, with the lasso too. You can't just like randomly make hobo shapes and then be like, let me fill it in, you know? It's got to be really intentional, right? Intentional shapes from matrix studies to now. This is what we are talking about, right? Everything carries through. I want you guys to realize that more than anything. Come on. Okay, there you go. So you see how those clean, crisp shapes are just bringing it. It's like a dancer, just kind of lifting up. Notice how when I'm doing the lasso tool, I'm not doing equal thickness like this, right? I'm actually doing the tapering effect, right? So this would be some sort of, you know, something that's, you know, equal thickness. But what I would do, oh, I need a different tool, is I would taper it, right? Remember we talked about this idea of tapering, and that started from your matrix studies. Remember, guys? So you see how I'm tapering it. There's some, it goes into thinness and then it merges thick again. That's going to create that nice graphic edge. I would also add it right here. You see, that's too harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taper it. So because I'm not actually good at making really beautiful shapes from the first start, I make ugly shapes and then I clean it up. That's my strategy. If you guys will notice how I paint, I put like really sloppy stuff and then I clean it up afterwards. So, that's one thing I would do. And then even like here in the back, by the way, this is what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to critique each of your pieces after you share. So you guys are obviously still going to get feedback, right? I would just, because you have so many beautiful soft edges here and because you have so much texture here, we need to think about contrast and balance, right, guys? This doesn't only go for value. I want you guys to think of hierarchy, contrast, and balance throughout all the visual tools, right? In this case, it's texture. I'm going to do a review of this. I've actually made a worksheet. I want to do a review of this next week. So if we have lots of texture where your flowers, how can we have maybe a little bit, I'm not sure this will work, but I mean, let's give it a try. How can we have a little bit more softness behind the flower so that, so I'm just using a gradient tool right now so that texture really sings, right? So you see that sort of dichotomy of texture versus softness. That, what do you call it? Contrast is what creates texture, right? It's because that your texture sings here in your flower because of the calmness behind it. Does that make sense? It's the same as saturation versus grays. The saturated colors stand out because you have more muted colors in the back. So it's not like saturated colors stand out because they're saturated. It's also because they have a supporting actor to help them stand out. That's the main point I want to get. I'm trying to create like a glow right here. I'm not sure what. I'm just trying to see if that would maybe help with a little pop of saturation. You're going to say something?
No. I'm looking.
Oh, okay. I heard it like a or something. Okay. So those are the little things I would continue. Gesture wise, I do think this part feels a little stiff. I think if you just curved the stem a little bit, curved it together, because then you have these opposed, these lines right here. I think that would look nice. But otherwise, I think the gesture is looking really nice. I would just kind of add a curve there. Yeah. Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. How about your second piece?
For this piece, main goal was to improve my colors because I've really been struggling with that. And I've been trying also to create the light and gentle atmosphere of this evening park. And while I was doing plein air, I've noticed how many, like this, many colors are sparkling every second. And I tried to catch this feeling. However, it's probably like impossible to paint full range of color motion, and I understand that because we will never compare to the nature. I'm happy with the result. So colors and values are main things which I've learned here, because this also was the high key, and it was pretty hard for me to do that, to stay in that high key mode. I think that I feel a bit overwhelmed with this piece, so I wouldn't touch anything anymore. But in the future, I'm going to improve my shapes because I'm not really happy with what I've done here. I want to make them more exaggerated and expressive. And also, in conclusion, I want to say about, I guess, the main thing that I've learned while doing this first chapter. I realized how to solve the problems. Now
That's
I know
great.
that if something feels wrong, so I have to stop, analyze, and seek a solution. Then when solution is found, I have to apply this knowledge and see what I have and do it again if something is wrong again. So yeah, it might sound stupid, but I've never done before it in my art. I've just, so something went wrong, so skip it and start new piece. Yeah, but now that really helped. Yeah, so I think even this is the main thing which I've learned. And I'm really grateful to you for that.
Aw, you're gonna make me cry. Okay. I love that. I think that's music to my ears. My goal is to help you guys problem solve, right? I'm not here to spoon feed you the answers. It's to give you guys the tools to be able to problem solve in your own paintings, right? Richard Schmidt actually says that in his book, Alla Prima. He's like, there's no problem that can't be solved. I remember reading this and you're like, yeah, that's so true, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you always can stop. There's two kinds of painters. The ones that may have run into a problem and they go, oh, I'm not cut out to be a painter. Oh, screw this. I'll just go back to my other job, or the other painter that goes, okay, here's a problem. Take a breath. What is the problem? Because it's going to be one of the things we talked about, right? It's going to be value. Mm-hmm. It's going to be color, which hinges on value. It could be a temperature thing. It could be colors are too saturated and the value's wrong. It could be there's too much texture. It could be there's a lack of texture. It could be the edges are not the correct edges in the correct place, right? So for example, if you have hard edges where the edges should maybe be softer or vice versa, all these little things can, chalk up to some things not reading right. It's your job as a detective, as an artist, to be like a detective and to figure it out, right? And I know it sounds daunting. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. It's like what value, texture, or value, color, shapes. I forgot shapes and composition. I will tell you now again, guys, most of the problems come from value and composition. If you can take the time to figure that out, everything else will kind of fall into place. I know everyone freaks out about color. Color's very much hingent on value, right? First, always check if the value of your color is correct. So that's why I spent a lot of time in composition, matrix studies, understanding how to design your shapes well, because I feel like if you guys don't have that foundation, then nothing else really matters. That's how I think. It's like, yeah, you can understand color, but if you don't understand how to put down good color shapes or why something's working and not working, what's the point, right? So I really love to hear that you said that, Ksenia, that you can sit down and problem solve. That's music to my ears. I really love how this piece turned out. I would say actually it's almost more of I'm going to say it's a mid-key / high key. I think 50% of the values are mid-key. So if we wanted to turn this high key, let's just kind of play around with that. The other things I have regarding composition is what you have here in your color study. There's a little bit more variation in the background. Right here, it turned kind of into a straight line. So composition wise, first, if we address that, I would just, oh my gosh, my computer's lagging again. Okay. I would just kind of maybe ruffle the edge of that a little bit. Oh dear. Okay. Let me just choose a different brush. Let's try a new brush. I don't know if this will take up too much. So just sort of, it just avoids sort of a straight diagonal. That's pretty much, two diagonals here, right? I'm picking up on those two diagonals. That's a composition, thing. I'm going to kind of lighten up the value in the sky so that we can pick up a little bit more in the silhouette of the bush in the back. I like your own critique of you being more expressive in your shapes. I really like that as a future goal. Although I'm really enjoying these shapes that you have here. Really, I think my only thing, the main thing is, I think in the end, you might have played with too much. What's confusing is that there's a lot of texture behind the fountain and then in the fountain. And so I'm picking this up as part of the fountain. So I think it's with your flower piece. If you just soften the texture in the back and then took, my favorite brush, guys, a hard brush, and just added some few dots of like sparkle, just a little bit, water. It's not about so much painting every spray. It's like just capturing the sparkles at the end. That's what really sells water. So these little like dots, like, I don't know what you call them. Just, I don't know, the essence of water, maybe even breaking into it a little bit. I also think I'm just trying to see if you can make the vertical. I'm looking at your color piece and I actually really like here how I don't see the side sprays as much and I see more of the vertical spray. I actually really enjoy the edges. I think you have all your answers in your color study, Ksenia. I think it's about referring back to that and finding where you had your texture and where you had calmness. So I think for this piece, there might be a little bit too much texture everywhere. And it's very easy to go texture happy, right? It's like, oh, you find a cool brush and it's like, oh, I like this texture. Let me put it everywhere. But then again, it's like the same as color. When you put that texture everywhere, it doesn't become special anymore. It's like the opposite of what we think will happen, right? It's like you eat chocolate so much, your favorite dessert, and you end up being sick of it. So I think you have all your answers. Let me just merge this. You see what we just did there? So we've softened the edge. On the back, I've softened some of the edges here in your fountain. And I think, the last thing is, right, if we want to turn it high key, let's try this thing where, did I hope okay. So I'm going to go to levels. Okay. I'm going to play around with these bars here. You can already see that this is, what do you call it? Burning out the value. So I usually just adjust the middle value, I think, just to make it a little bit more high key. I'm not sure if curves will do anything, to be honest. Honestly, I haven't really found a good adjustment layer to turn something super like high key. I don't want everything to be light. So I'm just going to I'm actually going to work inversely. And now I'm erasing that adjustment layer that I just put. So that adjustment layer lightened everything. Now I'm erasing that adjustment layer. So I'm bringing back some of Ksenia's darker values. So I'm toggling back and forth. I'm going, okay, I kind of like how the foreground was darker. So I'm just going to bring back some of those darker values. I'm using a gradient brush right now to kind of gradually soft brush those values in. So you can see the difference between this and this. We've just lightened it a tiny bit. So little things like that. Those would be my main critiques. But other than that, I think you did a great job. You should be really proud of yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.